February 6, 2026, San Francisco. The biggest night in professional football before the Super Bowl itself, the NFL Honors Ceremony. And standing at the podium, a 6'4" linebacker turned head coach from Akron, Ohio, accepting his second Coach of the Year award. In just one season, Mike Vrabel had taken a New England Patriots team coming off back-to-back 4-win disasters, a franchise without a heartbeat, and turned them into a 14-3 juggernaut, AFC East champions, Super Bowl contenders, the biggest single-season turnaround in NFL history. He had done what no one thought was possible. Then, 59 days later, Page 6 dropped a bombshell. Photos, clear, undeniable photos, of Mike Vrabel, married, father, Coach of the Year, holding hands, hugging, sharing a hot tub at a $2,000 a night adults-only resort in Sedona, Arizona, with a married NFL reporter. His initial response, he called it, and I'm quoting here, laughable. Within 2 weeks, that reporter had resigned her job. Vrabel had stepped away from his own team. New photos were surfacing going back 6 years. And the NFL was being asked the question nobody in that league wanted to answer. What do you do when your Coach of the Year becomes the story? Stay with me, because this one goes much deeper than a tabloid headline. To understand why this scandal hit differently, why it shook Patriots Nation and the NFL world the way it did, you first have to understand exactly who Mike Vrabel is. Born in Akron, Ohio on August 14, 1975. A football player almost from the day he could walk. He went to Walsh Jesuit High School in Cuyahoga Falls, and then on to Ohio State, where he didn't just play football, he dominated it. He finished his college career with 36 quarterback sacks and 66 tackles for loss, both school records. He was a 2-time Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year, a consensus All-American. The Pittsburgh Steelers drafted him in the 3rd round of the 1997 NFL Draft. He spent 4 years there before the New England Patriots came calling in 2001, and that's where Vrabel's legend was truly born. 8 seasons in New England, 3 Super Bowl rings. He was a stalwart on Belichick's defense during the greatest dynasty in modern NFL history. And in a fun wrinkle that fans still talk about, Vrabel had a habit of lining up at tight end and goal line situations, and he never dropped a pass. His final career stat line included 12 receptions, all 12 for touchdowns. The man did not waste a single route. He was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame in 2023, a franchise legend, a player who understood what it meant to be a Patriot better than almost anyone alive. His coaching career followed the same upward trajectory. Ohio State, then the Houston Texans as a linebackers coach and defensive coordinator, and then in 2018, the Tennessee Titans handed him the keys as head coach. He was also already married to Jen Vrabel, his college sweetheart from Ohio State, a couple whose love story goes back decades. Together, they built a family, a life, a reputation. That reputation, for over 2 decades, was bulletproof. And then came the offseason of 2026. Before we get to the fire, you need to understand just how high Mike Vrabel had climbed, because the contrast is everything. The Tennessee Titans fired him in January 2024, 6 seasons. He'd won Coach of the Year in 2021, guided the team to a 12-5 record and the top seed in the AFC, and made it to the AFC Championship game in 2019, the furthest the Titans had gone in decades. But after back-to-back losing seasons in 2022 and 2023, and a power struggle with new general manager Ran Carthon that had been festering behind closed doors, owner Amy Adams Strunk made the call. Vrabel was out. There was a side note to that firing that foreshadowed something. During a bye week in 2023, Vrabel had traveled to Foxborough to attend a game because the Patriots were inducting him into their Hall of Fame. In his speech, he told the crowd, "I've been a lot of places. This is a special place. It's not like this everywhere." Strunk reportedly did not appreciate that comment. She let it fester, and eventually, it was part of why he was let go. Vrabel spent 2024 as a consultant with the Cleveland Browns, watching, waiting. The Patriots, meanwhile, had just gone 4-13 under first-year head coach Jerod Mayo, their second straight disaster season. Robert Kraft pulled the plug after 1 year. And then, in January 2025, He picked up the phone and called the man who understood the Patriots' identity better than anyone. "Welcome home, Mike." What Vrabel did in New England in 2025 was genuinely historic. He took a team that had finished 29th in the league by advanced metrics and turned them into the second best team in the entire NFL, a 14-3 regular season record. The AFC East title, the franchise's first division crown since 2019. The first NFL team in history to go 9-0 on the road, including the playoffs. A 10-win improvement over a single offseason, matching the highest single-season turnaround in league history. And at the center of it all was second-year quarterback Drake May, who blossomed into an MVP candidate under Vrabel's guidance, leading the NFL in several major categories and coming within one vote of the league's most prestigious individual award. The Patriots swept through the playoffs, beat the Chargers, beat the Texans, went to Denver and beat the Broncos in the AFC Championship game. They were in the Super Bowl. And the night before that Super Bowl, on February 6, 2026, Mike Vrabel stood on a stage in San Francisco and accepted the NFL Coach of the Year award for the second time in his career, joining an elite club of coaches who've won it for multiple franchises: Chuck Noll, Bill Parcells, Don Shula. He was, at that moment, the most respected coach in professional football. He lost the Super Bowl to the Seattle Seahawks 2 days later, 29-13, a disappointing ending to an extraordinary season. But that was fine. There was always next year. The rebuild was real. The future was bright. He had no idea what was coming 59 days later. March 28, 2026. Sedona, Arizona. The Ambiente Sedona Resort. An adults-only luxury property nestled in Arizona's famous Red Rock landscape. The kind of place that runs over $2,000 a night per bungalow. The kind of place known as a romantic getaway, a honeymoon destination. Mike Vrabel was in the area. He'd been in Tempe the day before for a scouting event at Arizona State University. The NFL's annual league meetings were taking place the following week in Phoenix, just a 2-hour drive away. He was not alone. On April 7th, Page 6 published photos. Clear, high-quality photos, not grainy speculation, clear images of New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel and NFL reporter Deanna Rossini together, holding hands, hugging, lounging by the pool, sitting in a hot tub on a rooftop bungalow deck together. Both are married to other people. Vrabel is married to Jen Vrabel, his wife of decades. Rossini, who covered the NFL for The Athletic, owned by the New York Times, is married to Kevin Goldschmidt. They got engaged in 2020. They have 2 sons together. The 2 parties moved quickly to contain the damage. Vrabel's statement was almost defiant. These photos show a completely innocent interaction, and any suggestion otherwise is laughable. This doesn't deserve any further response. Rossini said the photos didn't represent what actually happened, that there was a group of 6 people hanging out that day, that reporters regularly interact with sources away from stadiums. The Athletic's executive editor called the images misleading and said they lacked essential context. The NFL said it would not review Vrabel's conduct under its personal conduct policy, and for about 24 hours it seemed like they might actually be able to walk this back. Then the photos kept coming. On April 9th, new images emerged of the 2 together at a bar in Indianapolis during NFL Scouting Combine Week, drinking together, described by reporters as more than just colleagues grabbing a beer. Then, the one that changed everything. On April 23rd, Page 6 published photos reportedly taken 6 years earlier, in 2020, at New York City's Tribeca Tavern. In those images taken in the early hours of March 11th, Vrabel is touching Rossini's arm. They are seen sitting closely together, appearing to kiss. In 2020, Vrabel was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Rossini was covering the NFL for ESPN and was 6 months away from getting engaged to her now husband. Hours later, TMZ published yet another photo, this one from a casino in Biloxi, Mississippi, in January 2024. 3 weeks after the Titans had fired Vrabel, the witness who took the photo told TMZ they assumed the woman was Vrabel's wife, based on their body language, until the story broke and they realized who they were looking at. The innocent interaction explanation was falling apart in real time. What started as one set of resort photos had unraveled into a documented timeline spanning 6 years across multiple cities. On April 14th, 1 week after the first photos dropped, Deanna Rossini resigned from The Athletic. In her resignation statement, she wrote that the situation had caused more damage than she was willing to accept, and that rather than continuing to let it escalate, she was choosing to step aside before her contract expired on June 30th. She deleted most of her social media accounts. She retreated from public life entirely. And Vrabel, the coach of the year, the Patriots legend, the man who just engineered the greatest single-season turnaround in NFL history, announced he would not be present on Day 3 of the 2026 NFL Draft. He was stepping away from the team to seek family counseling. At a press conference before the draft's first round, his tone was completely different from the defiant statement he'd issued just weeks earlier. "I've had some difficult conversations with people that I care about. My family, the organization, the coaches, the players. This was no longer laughable." Here's where the story gets even more interesting, because the NFL's response, or lack of it, tells its own story. The league's personal conduct policy is one of the most powerful tools in professional sports. It covers conduct detrimental to the integrity of and public confidence in the NFL. It has been used to suspend players for gambling, for drug use, for domestic violence, for social media posts. Roger Goodell has wielded it with extraordinary force over the years. When the Vrabel'S knee photos dropped, the question came immediately: would the NFL investigate? The answer came from NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy on April 18th, 10 days after the photos first surfaced. The league would not be reviewing whether Vrabel violated the personal conduct policy. No investigation, no review, no statement from Goodell himself. The NFL essentially said, "This is a club matter. Handle it internally." The Patriots backed their coach publicly, and Vrabel eventually returned to the building once the initial firestorm began to quiet. But the ripple effects were far from contained. When the NFL released its 2026 regular season schedule, it placed the Patriots in the opening kickoff game against the Seattle Seahawks, the team that beat them in the Super Bowl. The league insisted the Vrabel-Rossini drama played absolutely no role in that decision. The NFL's own executive vice president, Hans Schroeder, said they focused purely on the football storyline. Sure they did. Meanwhile, other teams were watching. Super Bowl champion Aqib Talib, never one to hold back, went on record saying the Patriots would likely take a step backward in 2026. He pointed directly to the offseason drama as a reason, and analysts around the league began asking the harder question: could Vrabel maintain his authority in that locker room with all of this swirling around him? Then came the analyst speculation about NDAs. NFL media commentator Mike Florio raised the possibility openly that the Patriots might pressure Rossini into signing a non-disclosure agreement to prevent her from telling her side of the story publicly. It was speculation, but the fact that it was being discussed seriously in NFL media circles tells you how serious people considered the potential fallout. Former Patriots linebacker Ted Johnson, who played alongside Vrabel and won 3 Super Bowls with him, warned on Boston radio that more photos could still be coming, that people were now looking back through old archives, old events, old years. The story, he suggested, wasn't necessarily finished. And then, in the strangest twist of all, the Los Angeles Chargers social media team included not-so-subtle references to Vrabel and Rossini in their 2026 schedule release video. A franchise trolling another franchise's head coach's personal scandal publicly on the internet. The NFL world was watching, and they were not being quiet about it. Through it all, one voice stood out for its loyalty. Drake May, the quarterback Vrabel had helped transform into a star, the kid who almost won MVP in just his second season, went on record with 3 words that cut through everything: "We love Coach." So let's zoom all the way out. Because this story isn't just about photos at a resort. It's about something bigger. Several somethings, actually. First, the journalism ethics question. Deanna Rossini wasn't just any reporter, she was one of the most respected NFL insiders in the business. A top newsbreaker, someone coaches and general managers trusted with sensitive information. She covered the Tennessee Titans when Vrabel was head coach. She followed his career to The Athletic. She was reportedly pumping out rumors about a potential A.J. Brown trade to New England all throughout the 2025 season, the very team whose head coach she was photographed with at a luxury resort. How many of her scoops over the years came from that particular source? How much of the information she published was influenced, consciously or not, by a personal relationship with one of the most powerful coaches in the sport? These are questions the journalism world is still trying to untangle, and they matter for the integrity of NFL media as a whole. Second, the power question. The NFL chose not to investigate. A head coach in a relationship, whatever you want to call it, with a reporter who had been covering him for years. And the league's position is that it's a club matter? If the situation were reversed, if it were a player, a lower-level staff member, someone without a Super Bowl ring, and a Coach of the Year trophy, does the NFL make the same call? That's a conversation that doesn't have an easy answer. Third, the future of Mike Vrabel in New England. He is back in the building. The Patriots publicly backed him. Drake May publicly backed him, but the noise has not fully gone away, and it may not until the season starts and football takes over the conversation entirely. The 2026 season opens with a Super Bowl rematch against the Seattle Seahawks on a national stage in primetime. Every camera in the country will be pointed at that sideline, and Vrabel will need to coach the best game of his life with all of this still sitting in the background. Can he do it? The answer to that question is really what his 2026 season is all about. Here's what I keep coming back to. Mike Vrabel spent his entire adult life building something, a playing career, a coaching career, a reputation as one of the toughest, most respected men in professional football. The kind of man other coaches study, the kind of man young quarterbacks would run through walls for. He had achieved at the beginning of 2026 something almost no coach in the modern NFL achieves: genuine, universal respect. Players loved him, media respected him, fans celebrated him. The league honored him. And then, whether by carelessness, whether by choice, whether by a private life that had been building pressure for 6 years, it all became public, in a flash, through a lens, at a resort in the Arizona Red Rocks. What happens next is up to him. But one thing is certain. In the NFL, the fall from the top of the mountain is never slow. And Mike Vrabel, the linebacker who never dropped a pass, the coach who never wasted a play, is now navigating the biggest challenge of his career. And this time, it has nothing to do with football. That's the Mike Vrabel story, at least the chapter we're in right now. More could still be coming. The 2026 season hasn't even started, and how Vrabel handles what comes next will tell us everything about what kind of man he truly is when the lights are the brightest. Drop a comment below. Do you think the Patriots made the right call standing by Vrabel, or should they have taken stronger action? If you're new here and you're into deep dive NFL documentary content like this, subscribe. We drop new videos every week on the biggest stories in the league. You won't want to miss what's coming next.